I'm delighted to say we've got some amazing weather. Taking time while we're self-isolating, like us beekeepers do all the time anyway, to get jobs done at home and tell you all about my hedges that I have around this property. I thought it'd be an excellent subject because a lot of people don't discuss the benefits of having really good hedges. Well, I'm going to tell you all about it. So I wanted to talk about the hedges I have around my property. When I bought this site, I think 11, 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago now, it was a complete open field, and we bought like a dog's leg on the end of the field, which was perfect because it was right next to my house in Brittany. Now we bought it for about 4,000 euros because the price of land here is dirt cheap, and I wanted to, at the time I wasn't a beekeeper, but I wanted to be able to have a big veg patch and have some space to breathe, and boy am I glad I bought it, because it's not just giving me that space to breathe, but it gives me purpose. It gives me a place to put my bees, to raise my queens, but obviously I have apiaries everywhere else, but it gives me that feeling that I've made a difference. And one of the things I love to do here is I love to plant trees, and there's not many spaces left that I've got here on this site. But one of these things I love to do is have hedges. Now they're a lot of work to maintain, and there's lots of different types, but I've gone for the Carpinus betula, which is common hornbeam, or in France they call it charme. Now this is it here. In the winter obviously there's no leaves on, you can see the I don't know if you can see that there, it's just starting to shoot its leaves, and I'll show you, these are the buds, are just starting to open. Now normally I'd like to cut this about now or 2 or 3 weeks ago, but the weather was so bad for so long, I haven't. But now, because of coronavirus and because of our own self-isolation, which us beekeepers do anyway, we are now forced to take time at home and work from home. So I'm using this opportunity to catch up with all the jobs here, and there's a lot of jobs. So I'm going to explain the hedges I've got and talk a little bit about them so you can have an idea of what my thinking about it is. Hey Tiger. This is my cat Tiger, who follows me everywhere. He's absolutely gorgeous. Aren't you, Tiger? So there's various types of hedges you can have. I've gone for this hornbeam because it does suffer from southwesterly winds. But the great thing about hedges is they do a lot of slowing of the wind. And if you live in a high area like we are, this hamlet I live in is actually really high. It's the highest part for a long way, but we've got valley all around other than that, so there's plenty of good places for bees. So I've gone for this hornbeam hedge here, mostly because it does really well in wet soils, which we do have for 6 to 8 months of the year. You can cut it right back if you need to. It does provide a little bit of fruit on its seeds once a year. It does provide little catkins for the bees, and above all, it's very, very hardy, and it does well in windy places. So you have to choose a hedge that is, one, I believe you should choose the hedge that is native to your area. Obviously you can use stuff like Dogswood, you can use stuff like hornbeam, you can use hawthorn, you can use blackthorn, you can use a variety of things. But if you want to choose a hedge that's good for beekeeping, but I've chosen this hornbeam because it grows really well in this area, and it's very well acclimatized to this particular northern climate. It's deciduous. It does lose its leaves in the winter, but you get fantastic autumn colour with it, and it does really well in wet soils. I know a lot of people use it in the UK. The thing with these hedges is, what I want to explain is the fact that hedges do multiple good for the environment around your bees. And I plant hedges around my apiaries because it does a lot of things, but there's two things I like. It shelters the bees from the wind, And also, if your bees swarm, there's a good chance it'll end up in the hedge and not somewhere else like 100 meters away. And it works time and time again. You can see in my video that's just here, you'll see this is a hedge right in front of an apiary, and sure enough, I've got a swarm in the hedge. That's exactly what I want to see. You also don't have to spend time walking around the area checking nothing swarmed. It's not ideal, but it's another form of swarm control, because you're not preventing the swarm, you're controlling it. You're giving it a place where it's more likely to rest. So that's one bonus, okay? I planted this hedge probably 6 years ago, and now it's really doing its job. It's just about to have a trim again now, like the other ones at home. But you can see I've got my apiary behind. People can come and go in front, and absolutely no problem at all. And also with this is the westerly, it's pretty protected here, but it's a westerly outlook as well, and it's actually a fantastic place because the bees get the sun all day. So it's in my interest to keep this hedge down low, and I'll be taking the top out of it. But it just shows you the kind of thing you can do with a bit of forethought when you've got a permanent apiary established and people are happy that the bees can be there. It affects nobody here, and the bees have got all this area. This actually used to be for horses, but they've moved out now, and now the land's basically fallow and they just cut it for hay once a year. So it's awesome. One of my best sites. I'll be increasing the number of hives here. But that's the kind of thing you can do. Hedges are just such a bonus. The main reason for having hedges is slowing the wind, okay? And when you slow the wind down, you still allow the wind to move, but you drop the speed of it drastically. And our natural area for the wind to come is the southwest. So that out there is the westerly west-southwest area, that direction up there. Okay, towards that house, you can see that little chimney sticking up just about there. That's sort of west-southwest, and the wind comes ripping through. We're actually quite high up here, but as the wind hits that hedge, it actually goes, rather than if it was a blocked barrier, like a wall or a fixed barrier, it would go over the hedge like this, and it caused severe eddies here. And that's really dangerous for bees and for animals, because it's so turbulent. Whereas if you have a hedge, the wind is allowed to just go through, but it slows it, it filters it right down. And obviously when you really need the benefits of a hedge, it really is at its peak when things need to grow, like in the spring and summer. So there's leaves on these in the spring and summer, and in the autumn generally it's quite calm here anyway. So you get sort of the three main seasons of the year where the whole area, this side, that side there, of the hedge is protected, so the wind coming from there goes through. Obviously it's not windy all the time here, and obviously the wind does come from some other direction sometimes. We get easterlies, we get southerlies, we get northerlies. I mean, it's all different, but the overall west-southwest westerly flow is typical for the English Channel, and that's the way, because the weather moves from left to right if you look at the screen like that. It's all about understanding a little bit about weather systems as well. But that's one of the main benefits of hedging, is it slows the air down. The other benefit is it's fantastic for wildlife. So I always like to cut my hedges now, because if we don't, birds start nesting in them, and I do not want to cut the hedges after they start nesting. In a minute, I'll be going to the other side of this property, and I'll be cutting the hedge that wasn't cut last year because I ran out of time in the start of the beekeeping season. But the hedge I've just cut there, this one I cut yesterday, I did it all in one day. It's just taking off 1 year's growth. You'll see what happens in a minute when we go to the other side, and you'll see 2 years growth and how much everything explodes off if you don't cut it every year. So it is maintenance, it is quite a bit of work, but the benefits are enormous. Birds nesting in it, animals living at the base of it, you get mice, you get insects, you get all that kind of thing building up. It's its own ecosystem. One thing I will say about France is they do not have many side hedgerows. If you drive around the United Kingdom, the UK, it has wonderful hedgerows, especially around northern areas. You get, and it's actually quite good, because in France, if you go off the road, you go into the side of the road, you go into a ditch. Every farmer has chains for forever pulling people out the ditch. If you do that in the UK, you just damage the paintwork a bit, because your car bounces off a hedge. If you do it in France, your car's usually a write-off. But anyway, it is coming in over here, and farmers are changing the way they do things. They're becoming more environmentally friendly minded, and the planting of hedges is certainly a massive way forward, because you get the build-up of beneficial insects in those hedges that then move into the crops. And if you're running a more of a environmentally friendly cropping system and a rotation system, you get the benefit of beneficial insects quicker when you have them held over in the hedgerows. I know this is not new news, I know this has all been said before, but it's actually being put into place now. It's actually being implemented in many areas here, which is absolutely fantastic. You know, we have gone away from the rip up all the hedgerows. We have gone, we're going away from ripping all that up. We're going away from you know, sterile whole grass areas, just sterile. You might know also that I'm into barn owls. I've got areas I've created on this land that are perfect hunting habitat for barn owls, and I'll talk about that in another video. But this is what it's all about. Hedgerows encourage mice, they encourage things like that, field mice, wood mice, to live in those areas, so you can have this complete ecosystem around your property. And it doesn't take much to set it up. It just takes a little bit of planning and a little bit of careful selection of your trees and shrubs, and before you know it, you've completely changed the area to a more of a sustainable nature area where things look after themselves. You know, it's absolutely fantastic, and you feel that you've done a great service by doing this, because you go on there, the birds are singing. You hear that now? You can hear the birds singing. We always get that. It starts this time of year because everything is looking to start nesting, everything's looking for a home, and I'm providing that home for these birds. So it's absolutely brilliant. So let's go around the other side and I'll show you some of the hedges. I've got a couple of different hedges as well. I do have hawthorn hedges, but I'll explain those in a minute. So I thought I'd just come and show you this while I can. This is a common hawthorn. This is Creaetageous monogyna is its name, and it's a fantastic tree, shrub. If you want to leave it as a tree, you can. If you want to cut it hard every year, it absolutely grows perfectly sideways and creates fantastic hedges, but you have to maintain them. So I'll show you this. You can see here, this is all hawthorn right the way down to the bottom of the land there I've got. And I planted this side on the top side because this gets wind as well, but it's dry here in the summer, very, very dry. And the hedge I planted doesn't need a lot of maintenance, basically none at all. And the reason why it doesn't need any is because they say this is very dry, but this hawthorn doesn't generally get much higher. It doesn't grow a huge tree. And if you want to get the farmer in with his tractor at the right time of year, when the tree is dormant and the berries are all gone for the winter, you can give it all a hack back. You can absolutely muller it with a tractor and a flower mower if you want to. It won't do any harm to the tree, and it almost like rejuvenates it a bit. I mean, there's other methods of rejuvenating hedgerows. You can layer them. You could lay this where you basically cut the stem at the base and then you bend it over, leaving half of it attached or a third of it still attached, and the sap still can travel through to the tree and it grows up, and you layer pieces on top of it and it builds a really good woven hedge. I don't really need to do that here because I don't have livestock, and I don't think, for me, that's the best way of doing it in this particular scenario, but it's a great method if you want to use it. But I was saying, I've got hawthorn here because it really is a great shrub. The only downside of hawthorn is the thorns. They are an absolute nightmare. If you're out cutting this lot back, you need to have steel heeled shoes because the spines will go through your shoes and your boots. It's unbelievable the damage they do. If you're running a mower up and down, you need a puncture repair kit because the mower gets thorns through the tires, and the spines can be that long and they will go straight through. And I do not jest, it's unbelievable. But you can see this hedge here runs from all the way down there to all the way up there. It's over 146 meters long. I planted it all by hand myself when I came here, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love it because also, as well as being just hawthorn, it's a marker, and it's a marker for the time of year, because I know that when this thing is in flower, it's nearly the end of the spring nectar flow. It's absolutely super shrub. And the flowers it gives are fantastic, but as well as that, we get lots of berries from it, and the berries are great for the birds for going in the autumn and winter. You get fieldfares, you get blackbirds, you get other things, coming over to feed on, because it really is a great source of food. And if you want to cut it, you can always cut it in the winter when everything's dormant and the berries have been eaten. I don't like. So this here is a hornbeam hedge. that I planted behind my bees, but I planted obviously the hedge well before I put the bees here. But you can see this is cut every year, and it's just a question of whizzing over these pieces. They never get any bigger than this unless you leave it for 2 years, and this is what happens, just to give you some idea. So that is the next job. We're going to be cutting all that back today while the weather's perfect and while we're going to profit from being here. And I'm going to be obviously removing it, cutting it back, reshaping the hedge. But you can see the leaves are just about to come out, but we're still fine. This is what the leaves look like when they come out. Beautiful, clean, fresh leaves. But there's a lovely hedge. I'm going to do maybe the top of this tonight when the bees are all back in. But this hedge is out the way a bit and it's fine. Just to say, further down here, I've got another type of hedge. And what I've done also is within the hedge, I planted trees. That's a common crab apple. Malus sylvestris, I think, is the name. But that will be from flowers soon. You can see how sparse it gets. But along the boundaries of the house, I've got, that's hawthorn, where I've showed you before. That's all got to be cut back. But there's no real hurry this year because you see those electrical wires up there. They're still clear of it, but that's actually telephone cable. But I do have to manage things like that. And it's important if you're planting a hedge to look what it might grow to touch in like 3 to 5 years after. As long as you can manage it, that's fine. But for this side, for example, I put a blackthorn hedge. Now it's just about finished flowering, which is perfect. And there's no leaves on the trees yet. So I'm going to cut this back. And very hard, right back to the stump, and then it's going to regenerate. And I'm going to try and manage it better because I haven't had the time to manage it as well as I should have done before. So I'm going to manage it better, and then that'll make a much better, thicker hedge when it grows next time. You can see there's a little bit of flower there, so I'm leaving that till the end of the week. But basically, the first load of blackthorn is finished now. You can see it's all gone very dark and been blasted by the wind. So it is beneficial. So this is called Prunus spinosa blackthorn. And it's a wonderful hedge. It's really even more prickly than the hawthorn, but it's also a nightmare as well. So I put this on top of this bank ages ago. I planted it for bees, but also planted it for security because I wanted this area a bit more secure down here because it's at the bottom of the garden. So there you go, a good start to things, but unfortunately my chainsaw has gone broken down mode. So while that's being fixed, I can get on with trimming all the sides of the other hedges. So that's plenty to do. But seriously, think about putting hedges around your apiaries. If you've got a place for bees that is, you know, gonna be there for a while, a hedge will grow in 3 or 4 years, and often the landowner is more than happy because it works for both people and it increases all the beneficial insects, it gives a haven for wildlife, and it reduces the wind around your bees. It's absolutely wonderful to just pause and just hear those birds singing because it's been such a long time without hearing that. And now we've got no one around in cars, everybody's at home, everyone's self-isolating, there's just no noise. Absolutely glorious. So, whatever you're doing in these strange times, be well, be safe, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye for now.